Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lyds, and we're back for some more Thronebreaker, and last time, so many things happened. Most significantly, of course, this avalanche that we are standing right next to that nearly flattened Meve, and did flatten much of our retinue, and that means that, well, we are now resourceless, at least when it comes to gold and wood, and supposedly, this was set up from the Nilfgaardians, and Brewver / the dwarves in general seem to just be looking the other way on that. So again, the whole dwarves and Mahakam being neutral thing, their argument is becoming weaker and weaker by the second. But as for what we have planned here, we do have just a few more things before we're looking at what is the last one or two encounters in Mahakam. So we walked past this battle and thought, oh, well, let's just pick up a little more loot. And maybe that way, if we do find this a tough one, we'll have more resources to make some upgrades so that we can improve our deck if necessary to finish this battle. Now we are resourceless, and so if we find ourselves going into this battle and it is a tough one, then we could be in a lot of trouble. Fortunately, even though we may not be able to craft additional units at this point in time, we do have a fair number of trinkets that we can use to switch around to fit the situation, so I think we at least try our hand at this encounter and see what it's all about, and we are really hoping that it is not so bad. But we're about to find out. Alright, so blood in the snow. Suddenly, a piercing shriek came from above. Giving no chance to react, a large creature swooped down from the sky and plucked up an unfortunate infantryman. His blood was splattered across the snow, leaving a crimson trail straight to the beast's nest. Okay, it's a standard battle, which means it's going to be 3 rounds, and we're going to use our starting deck, not some pre-made deck, so that could make things a little bit tougher. We might be on low morale as well, which will of course make things a little bit harder still. We do have a lot of places to either get our morale up to neutral or, better yet, up to positive, and yeah, we are on low morale. So, I mean, there's not much time left in Mahakam, so if we find ourselves close but not quite there, then that might be a way to get a little more success in this encounter, but let's see what we can learn here. So, Greedy Forktail, permanent resilience, so it will stay on the board not only into round 2 but into round 3 as well. On round start, spawn a harpy egg on each side of this unit. After 4 turns on turn start, consume the lowest units on the battlefield. So it seems like this is going to be another one of those. There are going to be a bazillion harpies and harpy eggs, and it's going to be kind of hard to stop our opponent from just flooding the board with all those things. So, are you technically a boss? It doesn't seem like it, because it doesn't say so. So, I mean, we might be able to take you out with a combination of Alchemist plus to weaken you, plus something else. So that's worth considering. I mean, at the moment, you are a reasonably powerful card that we could put an Infiltrator next to. We don't have much in the way of synergies for Reynard anymore, but of course he is a 9 power unit, which is something, but I think we probably still dump you. And Slinger, I mean, the harpy eggs are tough because we can't really get rid of them, otherwise it's going to spawn in more harpies. So, yikes. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what we want to do for this one. Let's get rid of one of the Infiltrators, because I think having 2 is a little bit risky. The Bombers are particularly tough with those harpy eggs, because once they're on the board, and once we have fire on that row, there's not really anything we can do to stop that fire from... It is random, and there's a chance of it happening, chance of it not happening, but there's nothing we can do to stop it. So it is kind of risky in that way. I do kind of like Tainted Ale, though, on the Greedy Forktail, and then that does give us a great card to put the Infiltrator next to, so that's an intriguing option. You could make a case for getting rid of this, but I think what we'll do is, because we are going to have multiple rounds in this encounter, can't use all our redraws right now. So yeah, if these get destroyed, they'll spawn in a harpy, which is worth 2 more points, and also we'll spawn in more harpy eggs, so the chain continues. So technically, if you destroy the harpy eggs and then destroy the harpies that get created from the harpy eggs, then you might be able to stop the chain reaction, but that is easier said than done. I mean, technically, if we were to... Technically, we could do that. If we went Slinger first, and move these guys, that would destroy the harpy eggs and spawn in the harpies, and then use leader ability to destroy the harpies. I mean, chances are they're going to have additional harpy eggs / harpies that they play directly from their hand, right? But maybe to shut this stuff down early, that is worth considering. Obviously, Alistair's Thunder is pretty solid here with a big target in the middle and weaker targets to the side, but I think that we can save for a later occasion, because this is generally a very strong card, whereas this is not as powerful more often than not. And there's our confirmation that this is not a boss, so we can target it with our other units, so that is nice. It means we could use Tainted Ale on it. But let's now go leader ability on you to take you out, and then we'll get the extra damage from the Arbalest as well. So that will drop you down to an 8. And remind me how exactly the consume works. After 4 turns on turn start, consume the lowest units on the battlefield. Notably, that does not say on their side of the battlefield, it can consume our cards if they're the lowest cards on the board. So that's a little scary. We should still have the means to take you out, either through Tainted Ale or through Alistair's Thunder or other sources of damage, so I'm not too concerned just yet, but that is certainly worth noting. Okay, oh, what the heck? Have we seen this before? Majestic Griffin. Not just any Griffin, a majestic one. Mind you, move a random enemy to the opposite row and damage all units on it by 2. That is really unlucky that we happen to have all of our random units spawn in the melee row, because that might be the first time we've ever seen them all end up in the same row, and of course it happens to be the one where they can set up a maximum damage Majestic Griffin. But now, I mean, it's not a bad target to poison, actually, with the Tainted Ale, and then put the... We still have one Infiltrator, right? Yeah, put it next to that. That's an option. Although... it's going to be a little tough, actually, to take out this Forktail in time. Because, I mean, either it's a big chunk of damage to Alistair's Thunder, which is obviously enough. But if not that, then what? Slinger is not going to be fast enough. Alchemist doesn't have anything to weaken you with at the moment. So we could have done that on turn 1, I suppose. But we were trying to get rid of the harpies and harpy eggs and whatnot. We would set a row on fire, but that's also not particularly fast damage either. So I think might even go Thunder here. Obviously, there isn't a unit on this side, so it's not perfect, and we're planning on maybe poisoning this unit with the Tainted Ale, and that would destroy you, so the damage is insignificant, and the damage even weakens the future Strays Infiltrator that we were planning, but I think we still go for it, because just getting rid of that Forktail before it can do anything significant, I think, is a big deal. So I'm hoping that after having shut off Harpies, my goodness. Just so happens that all of our random units really, really want to set up their Griffins here. But I suppose this one is now bigger, so we could go Tainted Ale here, and then subsequently use the Strays Infiltrator to get boosted off you. I think that is probably the plan. I mean, then again, earlier we played the Bomber, the better, but we don't want to do that when we have an Infiltrator. Yeah, we should do this. We technically need to put it on our side of the board, right? And then do that. So I'm hoping that after having taken out the greedy Forktail and shut down the Harpies and Harpy Eggs, at least initially, that we will have prevented them from using what would have otherwise been some of their most important cards. Well, there is at least a Harpy, as we suspected they might have. We slowed the progression here, but it will continue. So now we would like to make sure that we get the Infiltrator down here before this gets destroyed. So let's just make sure we put it on the correct side. Boost self by the power of the unit to the right. See how we put you here. So once this gets boosted and comes back to our side, then we can consider loading up on more damage. So we do want to get the... Wait, they pass? Oh, right. Because they have a huge lead. Understandably, yes, but we can still play 2 cards if we want to. And try pass in round 2 and still get up to full cards, full hand in round 3. So it's not that big of a deal. Obviously, they're going to lose a 22-point unit, and we're going to gain a 24-point unit. So that's already going to be worth a lot. Is there anything we'd like to... Like, we might want to save the bomber for later rounds, when we can get a full round of value out of it. I think we'd like to save blood as well. That means Slinger is probably the most disposable card here. So I think we do that. And we just... I mean, it's okay. Hitting a Harpy Egg. Well, let's do this. And then, rather than spawning a Harpy Egg, let's do this. Why risk it, you know? And so then, if we end our turn, we gain a bunch of power, they lose a bunch of power, and that means we definitely are going to win this round. And we technically still have 5 cards, so we will have at least one we can play in round 2. Okay, so first of all, remind me, yeah, Knickers has permanent resilience, not just the usual resilience, so he is still carrying over into round 3, which is nice. We draw into another bomber, Reynard, and the other infiltrator, I think. Oh no, 1, 2, 3, something like that. So we technically can use a throwaway card here in that we will draw into 3 cards in round 3. We have, 8 cards right now. So that means that we have 1 card to burn, basically. So we can play our weakest card and see if we can trade our weakest card for one of their stronger cards, and that might be beneficial. So that's probably what we're looking for in that case. I mean, it could be one of our bombers, especially if we're concerned about setting a row on fire that has Harpies and Harpy eggs in it. So maybe it's that, even though usually double bomber would be kind of nice. So maybe we stick with this. And I think we might still try to swap out Reynard. And getting Gabor, I think, is definitely a nice addition. So let's stick with this for now. And yeah, I think it's probably just a bomber. So it's, as I said, basically a throwaway. Just looking for them to hopefully commit something that does not have resilience, but is otherwise kind of big. Harpies, Harpy eggs, they put them in the row with the fire. That's why we were kind of concerned about the fire to begin with. But I think we will pass here. It will still force them to play another card, because they've not caught us yet, although that, then again, it spawned in a Harpy, so they technically... Oh, I don't like the resilience, though. I definitely don't like the resilience, though. Okay. That's interesting. Okay, did they get back up to 10 cards here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Yeah, okay. So it's 10 cards to 10 cards. That's not a factor. But, we have seen... This is deploy, consume. Okay, so it's not like they're going to consume anymore, at least not on these guys. But they might consume in the future, which means those are generally going to give them some high power cards. So an infiltrator is potentially quite effective here. So we probably want to hold on to that. We also drew into Barnabas, which I mean, we don't have a good idea. Don't have much of a sense of what we're going to get here, but usually there's at least one solid option, so that is nice. Alchemist, I think, is a good ace to have up our sleeve. I think we're probably still trying to dump Rainer, but what else can we get here? Isbel, we have not taken any damage yet. That is definitely a lie. Does it reset every round? Boost allies by random... No? By random... Boost allies at random by the total damage taken during this battle. If it was during this round, I would understand why it said 0. That is weird that it says 0 right now, though, because we have taken damage from all of those, Majestic Griffins that they were using. So that is unusual. I think we might get rid of the Bomber. And a second Alchemist is not bad. We might get rid of a Slinger as well. And get Isabel. Okay, now she says the right number. So we could redraw one more card here. And at this point, I think we are guaranteed to see what the last one is. And it is another Slinger. So we just leave it as is here. They play first, and it's another Harpy. So, question now is, do we have a way of stopping all the harpies and harpy eggs from getting spawned in here? So it would be nice if we could make that happen. Does mean we have leader ability back. That is the harpy egg that you spawned in. So if we destroy this harpy egg and destroy the harpy, then we're good. Or we just never touch this harpy egg, but I imagine they're going to try to find a way to consume it. So, not sure what direction we want to go in there. Might just wait it out a bit. Ooh, I forgot that blood. Are we going to have enough cards to even do this? We have a bomber and 2 slingers in our deck. These guys are... I mean, this is a bug that I think we've seen many times before. The Gesso units always show up in our deck, even though they started on the board and are now actually in our graveyard. So, we'll draw 5, or look at 5, and play 2 and discard one of them. Okay, so yeah, that still works. I was concerned for a second that we weren't going to have enough to even use blood at all, in which case there's a dead card that we should have mulliganed, but no, we should be fine. So... Oh, we didn't get rid of Reynard? I was thinking of getting rid of him. But, I mean, we could play him first just because he's a reasonably high base power card that doesn't have any other relevant abilities, so it's not all that important that we time him. I mean, technically, we could reuse Isabel's order, but as we've said many times before, that doesn't really work because it sets the number. Once we use her order, it drops back down to 0, that the value of the boost, even if we use Reynard to reset it. So I think, I mean, unless we're going to hit them with Gabor plus leader, is that worth doing? If we do, I think we've tried before going for the damage initially with Harpy Egg and then seeing if that Harpy spawns in immediately so we can target that with the overkill damage, but I don't think we can. So that's probably not worth doing here. I think we have better uses for you in the future. We could Slinger, which would destroy this Harpy Egg, and then we could go leader ability on the 4 power Harpy here and destroy it. Yeah, it shuts that down. It misses out on the greater damage on just hitting double Barbagazi, which is pretty tempting. So I guess we'll do it though to try to shut down all of the Harpies and Harpy Eggs, which I think might still be worth more long term. So it spawns in you, and then we hit you with leader ability to shut you down. And it also means that if we can get a bomber with blood if we want to, and of course the earlier we play the bomber, the better it is. There's more time to get the damage from the fire, but we don't want to do that when they have the Harpies and the Harpy Eggs. So we could do it in this row. Obviously, they continue to play more of them, it would appear. So I think we do also need to be careful about if we are going to use this Infiltrator. We don't want to put that in the row with fire. And these are currently where the biggest units are, so that would be where we'd want to use the Infiltrator, but I think we'll just have to rely on fire here, and hopefully a bigger card later on that we can use the Infiltrator on. So let's go blood, and yeah, bomber here, and then obviously it's a slinger for the second card. So let's go use the bomber to set this row on fire. Then with the slinger,
Bigger they are, easier they are to touch.
I mean, we can... Not loving it, actually. We can move you in and move you out, and then rather not hit this Harpy Egg to start that chain. I mean, they'll probably have a way to do it themselves, but rather not move you guys out either, so I think we're just moving the horn again. Okay, and it's a Slizzard, which we've seen before. Every turn start, increase counter by 1. And if it gets destroyed, they'll deal a bunch of damage to us, but the longer we wait, the more damage that becomes. So we, generally speaking, like to take care of you as quickly as possible. And we can do that if we use Gabor specifically. So I think we might opt to go that route here. See what our other damage options are. Northern Wind, which is damages a lot of cards. Wait, damage all and damage enemies. This might be another one where we've tested out to see if it destroys harpy eggs and then destroys the harpies as well, or if it does all the damage and then the harpies spawn and they do not get hit by the Northern Wind. I imagine that is likely the case there as well. So I think in that case it might be Gabor here for 15 damage on you. Means we'll have 5 extra remaining, which we could use to drop you down to a 2. I think we might do that. I'd rather not do it to you because that potentially could be an alchemist target. It's not a great one, but it's an option. So yeah, I think let's go that route.
For you, pal, anything.
Gabor with damage. This is going to hit us once this is over. And then we hit you. And it hit, Knickers, which is, I mean, not sure if we want him to eat something from our hand. Not sure about that. It's another Slizzard. At that point, it is becoming much harder for us to get rid of that one too. So I'm not really sure we have an answer for this unless we take our chances on Barnabas and see what we get. We could use the Alchemist to drop you down to a 2. You still have 2 armor, but then you are technically in removal range with our leader ability, but that's still not something we can do immediately. So yeah, if we need something to happen right away, then the only potential answer is Barnabas, and again, that may or may not be sufficient. So outside of that, yeah, I mean, if we lower you down to 2 power, 2 armor, Northern Winds can destroy you, but that's something we'd like to save for as late as possible, and so on the other hand, we'd like to destroy you as quickly as possible to limit the number of charges you get. So I think we might need to gamble a bit with Barnabas here. Looking for damage.
Yes, I'm on it.
Oh. I mean, we can destroy you guys for 18 total value and then 3 damage on you for 21 total. We could also convert someone into a bear, which is worth slightly less than that. Lyrian Horn, yes, is damage, but it's just not quite enough, unfortunately. So I think we're going to have to go Cadaver, and it's not bad. It's definitely not bad. But it's just narrowly misses what we were looking for here. I mean, we could hit you, drop you down to a 7, which would get you 2 on the same number for leader ability, which would be 2 turns away. Still not sure that makes much sense here. It's not going to be enough. Okay, the Harpy got destroyed and it's already spawned its egg. Yeah, they're making a lot of Slizzards here. So, I mean, at this point, we are just kind of hoping that they don't have a way to destroy said Slizzards, otherwise we could be in trouble. I mean, the damage, of course, does make Isabel stronger, but she is pretty vulnerable at just 2 power, and she will get strengthened by 1 and get 1 armor from Valmir's Horn, so should be a little bit safer after that, but, I mean, not much. We do need to make sure that we have some time to get the Infiltrators boosted up. So it's, I mean, at 8 power, it's not great, but I think we probably need to go that route. So let's do this.
We got a job to do.
Granted, if we wanted to hit the Slizzards with our leader building on our next turn, that probably would have been our preferred target, but we'll see what they play here. We don't want to do that anymore. And naturally, they immediately play a card that would have been better for the Infiltrator. But, okay. Well. It does still damage us every turn. If it stays on the board, it's not just the Death Wish and Death Wish alone. Yeah, okay. Well, oh, also, that was well played there, where we no longer have a great way to weaken this Slizzard. We make it stronger, in fact. We do have alternative options for leader ability. We could destroy the harpies, and I think that's definitely what we'll opt to do here. And we might just be looking at Raynor outside of that, because not a great time for the alchemists, unfortunately. So why don't we do that and essentially play Raynor next to Barnabas and have him be a card that we could use the alchemist on and get powered up by Raynor's power. So that would mean we want Raynor to the left of you.
Her Majesty is exceptional.
Leader ability on the 4s. And the Harpy Egg does get destroyed. There's the Strays Infiltrator. That Forktail immediately consumes a bunch of stuff and deals a ton of damage. Which does mean Isbell is worth a whole lot of points here for what it's worth. And once again, oh, if only. If only. We waited one more turn. Granted, we can set you to 13 power, which is a pretty huge play. So I think we will opt to go that route. So let's put you
Greetings.
here.
What
And
is it?
substantially weaken you. That's a minus 19. So you have to love that. Then transform all Harpy Eggs into Harpies. And boost self by 3 for each one transformed. Well, there aren't any left. Fortunately, that probably could have been a pretty strong finisher had we not made a pretty significant effort to stop all those Harpy Eggs. So now it probably is time for Alchemist here to boost you up. We could put Isbell here or here and get her powered up to a 19, or rather to a 19, to an 11. To make her a little less vulnerable. I was thinking we'd just play her on our second to last turn. We wouldn't buff her, but we would just have one less turn in which we are waiting to use her, and then finish with the Northern Wind. We can't play her on our last turn because she doesn't have Zeal. I think we still do this.
If anyone asks, you've not seen me.
Okay, Archgriffin boosts a random ally in this row, boosts all units by 4. Okay, they are doing more boosting, yes, but, I mean, basically it looks like it's going to come down to, if Isbell survives, we definitely win. If she does not, we definitely lose.
So much
No pressure,
anger
Isbell.
And suffering. For what?
What is their last play? It's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everything is fine. Use Isbell. Ginormous boost. We have taken the lead. Northern Wind to finish for good measure. And we should be done. Victory! And thank goodness, because as I was saying, if we did not win this one, we would not have had very many ways to improve our deck. We could have improved our morale, yes, but this is actually a free way to get back to neutral morale, which is nice. And then we also can loot up here, and I mean, it's not going to be a substantial amount of rewards, but it's getting us beyond 0, and that in and of itself is pretty important. Because if we find ourselves in desperate need, it is at least an option to do some stuff. That, granted, with 16 wood, there's not much we can do. There is technically still that spot where we can exchange gold for wood over here, but I think it was a pretty huge amount of gold, or, I mean, by this, compared to what we have right now, relative to this, it's a huge number. It's, you know, a few hundred, I think, to get a relatively small amount of wood. So, you know, just, if anything, if any units cost any wood at all, we probably can't afford them. Like 1 or 2 more pieces of loot. Well, then again, random loot in Mahakam tends to give us on the order of about 2 wood. So maybe even that's not enough. But, you know, a few more of those and getting this up to 32 or something like that. And we should at least be able to craft some stuff in case of emergency. Which is generally what we've been trying to do, is even if we are spending, and spending aggressively, we want to make sure that we at least can, if absolutely needed, bail ourselves out. I was also curious to see if there's going to be anything else over here. I feel like if there was, there could be a hidden chest here. That would be kind of devious. Maybe they assumed that we wouldn't check the big pile of snow. Except that we did. Except that they're still may not be anything here. All right, fair enough. Fair enough. We do know that there is likely a chest. Where was it? Here? With the map that we've recently acquired. Let's see what these dwarves can tell us. They have some excuses for the avalanche that they caused slash helped cause slash allowed the Nilfgaardians to cause. Oh, also worth noting. Yeah, if, again with the whole, like, the dwarves pretend to be neutral, but they're far from it. Yeah, so they get all worked up if we attack a Nilfgaardian caravan. Huge deal. Bruver hates it if we do that. And that is, in fact, what actually caused, supposedly, the ripple effect that led to this. On the other hand, yeah, you know, if like an avalanche falls on a queen of two of the northern realms and kills her, they don't care about that? Yeah, you know what the implications, what the ramifications would be if that were to happen in Mahakam? All of the northern realms would immediately want Bruver's head, and all of the dwarves would be absolutely toast. So, again, the just complete double standard hypocrisy. It's perhaps now more than ever with that avalanche. It is pretty extreme.
By the elder sideburns, I'd no notion anyone was in the Vale.
Sure. Plausible deniability.
Nilfgaardian said the road was clear. Ah, whoresons.
Yeah, and again, if, like, whether or not you did it intentionally, if Meve died from that encounter, it would be the end of Mahakam. Like, on the whole, Mahakam would cease to exist. It would get run to the ground. Yes, the Northern Realms are preoccupied, some of them at least are preoccupied with Nilfgaard, but you know, it would cause an absolute uproar across the continent.
What a mess. I'm so sorry. With all my heart.
So sorry we almost killed you, because saying you're sorry is totally all it takes for us to forgive you, and, you know, it's no big deal.
Nilfgaardian said the road was clear. Ah, whoresons.
Alright, well, there's a little more loot to be had here. I mean, gold is getting to the point where that's definitely usable to a certain extent. Again, the wood is still probably not enough to make much of a difference yet. There is a question mark of some variety over here. We know that there is supposedly a Nilfgaardian outpost close by. Is this it? That is a Nilfgaardian set of armor. So I think that is the case there. Basically, they said, hey, if you want, you can exact revenge by going over to Nilfgaardians, but Bruver will take note and will be mad at you if you do. Again, like, all things are not equal here. You know, causing an avalanche to kill the Queen of Lyria and Rivia versus a single Nilfgaardian camp of normal soldiers. You know, like, what's the highest rank? Like, it's not like General Dahes over here. You know, it's maybe a Nilfgaardian captain. Like, those two things are so incredibly different. A Nilfgaardian captain, or less, and whatever soldiers he had at his outpost getting attacked versus Queen getting killed. Not the same thing. So, yes, on one hand, we will definitely take a look there soon. I think that we will probably, as we were saying, opt to once again not enrage Bruver, because although I don't know exactly how the calculations work in terms of what does and does not, or how important are the various things, do they all count for the same amounts, or are some things more important than others? I don't know. It seems like we had done way more good things than bad things at this point. But if some things are more impactful than others, that one right there, given how much of a very clear warning we were given, feels like we definitely should not do that. So, in the meantime, let's see what this is all about.
Settlement of Kolstock, Meve heard the sounds of battle.
Hey-ho! Into the fray, lads!
Expecting she would see monsters swarming dwarves, the queen set off at a gallop to the rescue. Her braid blew about in the wind like a banner, showing her men in which direction to attack.
Or, you know, you could point or something like that.
The dwarves she saw, however, were not engaged in a battle against Shaelmars and Barbagazes. No, they were going at one another. Luckily, no weapons had yet been drawn, but given the dwarves have hands the size of bread loaves, this did not necessarily mean there would be no deaths.
Oi, lads!
Roared Gabor Zigrin.
What's this foolishness? Calm the hell down, damn it!
Gabor's intervention proved successful.
Oh,
The dwarves
okay.
limited themselves to verbal jousting. Meve, who was no stranger to barrack room talk, nonetheless turned crimson at the dwarves' cursing.
And this makes me wonder, so in this case, it was Gabor who calmed things down, very similar to a situation we saw recently with Isbel, able to calm down a very tense situation. I think those are, in many cases, just sort of like the game's checks to see, like, do you still have this person? Did you recruit this person to begin with in the case of Isbel? Because if so, then here's the little bonus that you're getting beyond the gameplay aspect of having the card in your deck. You know, from a more narrative standpoint, here's the bonus you're getting. And so I think in this case, it's because we had that argument after the Avalanche with Gabor, where we might have had the choice to kick him out of our team. We chose to give him a second chance, and so, you know, if you had kicked him out, then maybe you go into this encounter, you can't defuse the situation, and it erupts into a fight, and things get nasty real quick.
Piecing together the obscenities, Meve concluded they were debating an old quarrel about the height of a certain mountain, or rather of the twin peaks atop it. One of them lay in the territory of Clan Dahlberg, while the other in the Hoogsland. Each family felt their peak was the highest, all measurements indicating the contrary being total fabrications.
Queen!
Of course.
Started Gabor, nervously chewing his moustache.
They're asking if you, as yin impartial and a fair-minded wench to boot, wouldn't you wish to settle their idiot squabble once and for all?
Excuse me, did you just refer to a queen as a wench? Please refer to the queen with a little more respect.
Meve knew well that this type of age-old quarrel could easily end in bloodshed, so she resolved to help. Representatives of the two clans gave her a strange mechanism she was to use to measure elevation.
I thought she was going to say she would remain
All that was
neutral.
left was for the queen to button her coat up to the neck and scale the twin peaks.
What? Are you serious?
Time to end this delicate feud once and for all.
I thought that it was going to say, well, Meve knew that picking a side here was going to inevitably cause even more chaos, and so it was best to just not pick sides. But apparently not.
Time to end this delicate feud once and for all.
Okay, well, I imagine the Twin Peaks are, what, here and here? And there is a point of interest there. We know this is where we're expecting to find the other chest. So, I mean, we're planning to go there, but anything there? Or anything here? That's just the lady. There's a better look at the Nilfgaardians. Can we loot this from here? No, we can't. Okay. So what exactly is going on up here? Because there's probably something else at the very top. I assume these are the peaks in question. Maybe this is it right here. They're asking us to compare, because it looks pretty obvious from this angle.
When she and her force had traveled half the way to the first, she heard a long roar that made snow shells detach and descend.
Of
Without
course,
waiting
it's not
for her
that simple.
scouts to return with reports, Meve drew her sword.
Is it just Meve here? Oh no. Is it Meve alone? Twin Peaks, fighting on a steep mountain slope is no easy task. The Lyrians struggle to find solid footing in the snow, propped up by their spears, their eyes squinting under ice-speckled brows. Whereas the beasts, they moved with ease, leaping from rock to rock, long talons scraping menacingly against the stone. Okay, so shortened battle, so just one round here. Let's see what we're getting ourselves into. It looked like from the preview there's going to be some more slizzards. We saw those recently. Let's see what the deal is, though. What do they have? Nothing at the moment, at least, which does make it a little bit hard to plan. But I think we want to get Knickers back into our deck because he can get summoned out. We may want to put Reynard back into our deck because he's not worth, I mean, still 10 points, which is something. Bomber. I mean, we're going to have to kind of predict where they're going to play their cards here because they don't have anything starting on the board, but we'll probably still make that work. Yeah. just dump Reynard. And Alchemist could potentially help us out with either the Infiltrator or weakening some of their cards, so I think we can probably make this work. This is a little bit risky, but we'll give it a shot. Oh. Well, that's one way to start. So, damage the lowest unit by 2. If they don't have any more other sources of damage, we could deliberately wait until our next turn, then activate both Footman abilities, and replace what would at that point be a 1-power unit with whatever we happen to get from our deck. So I think that's probably worth trying. Problem is with nothing for us to target here. This is a little bit awkward. I mean, there's a chance Barnabas gives us something that is boost-centric, which would be kind of nice. Gabor doesn't really work. The Bomber, we could just take a guess which row they're going to play some units in. The Slinger actually forces us to hit ourselves, and definitely don't want to be playing the Infiltrator here when we don't know what is going to get put in the same row, if anything. So I think it kind of has to be Barnabas. And even if it is boosting, we were saying how we kind of intended to swap these guys out. Maybe that means we do it a turn earlier. I was going to wait one more turn because that means we're basically getting free damage that we can just mitigate by replacing these units on the next turn, whereas if we do this now, then the units that we're actually going to keep will get and maintain that damage, but I think we do it here.
When will you ever learn?
Ooh. That's a nice addition. That, I mean, is higher base power, yes. But we'd, of course, like to save Isabel until we take more damage, so she's here. She is kind of vulnerable at just 4 power and 1 armor. And she's the lowest unit in this row. That really stinks. Okay, so yeah, let's play Barnabas. He will get boosted up to 5 and 1 armor. Yeah, so even he is going to be bigger than she is. Unless we play him and find a way to get some additional boosts, which is what we're looking for here, I think. Boost 2 allies and give them immune. That's kind of tempting on Isbel, just so that they can't target her, and it would be enough of a boost. So the strengthening has not yet happened on you. It would get you up to 6. So you'd no longer be the lowest unit, so you wouldn't get hit by the weather effect, and you'd have immune so they can't target you with other stuff, which gives us time to just sort of protect you there. Blitz units, I think, what? Reynard is Blitz? Bomber is Blitz. Reynard is fine, because he's a point slam, and we don't have anything that we need to target, so that's not an issue, whereas, as we said previously, the Bomber don't know what row we want to set on fire, although we have another one in hand, so getting the other one out now means we could just set 2 rows on fire, although we would like to get an Infiltrator out there and back on our side before we set any rows on fire so that it's safe. So I think we're either going to put armor on Isbel, and that way she's still the lowest unit, but she's going to tank more of the damage. Or we go barrier. I think it's still barrier. It is not worth as many points. But long term, it is more sustainable. Alright, we picked 2 units. So we select you, and then don't pick Barnabas, basically. Otherwise, they'll be tied for the... or no, then Barnabas will overtake Isbel, and Isbel will once again be the weakest unit in this row. Okay, please play unit.
Eyes up, lads! They're flying straight for us.
Okay. So now you get hit, which again is not as big of a deal, but if Isbel remains safe, and she should for a while longer here, if not indefinitely, then we'll continue to take damage from the Biting Frost and continue to increase the power of Isbel, which could be a very big factor. So we would like to get rid of you quickly. And, I mean, that is one way we could potentially end up taking damage on Isbel. But if we were to say, on one hand, we kind of like to Tainted Ale and use that to get a bigger Infiltrator as soon as possible. On the other hand, that is a little bit slow. So I think instead, Gabor's overkill damage. So is Thunder. Well, I mean, Thunder is technically the right amount, but if you factor in that we're about to use leader ability, actually, this drops you down to 6. 2 damage from both of you guys. 4 total drops you to 2. Means Slinger actually is enough. There aren't enough units for us to hit their units, so we'd have to hit one of our own, which we actually could do to knock you into this row and make you be the sacrificial lamb and minimize some of the damage from Biting Frost and make it even longer before Isabel eventually becomes the target of the frost. It might need to be that. Either that or it's blood. And we just see what we get. I think we go for the sure thing, which was you.
Have it the weight of an arm
This,
from half a league
this,
away.
and this. And now, if we go leader ability, I believe you should be dead. He's gonna hit someone. As long as it's not Isabel, we're good. Okay, Snow Wolf. Oh, these guys are pretty nasty, right? Damage a random enemy by 2 if it's under Biting Frost. Damage it by 4 instead. And then, assuming they play a bunch more of those wolves, that damage is going to become much, much bigger. So, Thunder is not enough. Unfortunately, it will significantly weaken you, but it is not enough. Gabor is it is enough, but it's actually a little bit overkill, but we might settle for that, because the more wolves they get, the stronger they all become. So just cutting them off, whatever extent possible, I think it's worth doing.
Murder a pint.
And then, oh, right, this has happened to us before. We've needed to do overkill damage on ourselves. Not the first time we've done that in this match, but I think I don't know how much overkill it is, I don't remember. But once again, if we can drop a unit so that it is going to be below Isabel, that'd be nice. So, Slinger, it's you to 6, and now you're all tied for 6 here, so you're gonna be next. But it's not super clear who's gonna come next after you go down. Knickers, what did he eat?
Quite the clever little contraption they gave us. Work of a gnome, of course.
What? Oh, the measurement tool? Okay, well, there is another Snow Wolf, which is not terribly surprising. We would... Oh, it was the... was the Tainted Ale, which was going to be a really nice setup for the Infiltrator. Kind of unfortunate. So now this is going to be a fair bit worse. And we would... If we're going to play the Bomber, we want to play him soon. We're trying to delay the Bomber until we get the Infiltrator. We should do this. We should do this now.
Gotta get our asses moving.
And, well, Thunder is, of course, another potential way... Oh, wait, what? How did this happen? When did that happen? That's not good. That means Isabel's getting destroyed on our next turn. So, we need to use this now. Wow. I did not come from the Snow Wolf because it's random units. Yeah, random units, and it happened at Isabel. That really stinks. Because that substantially lessens what would have otherwise been I mean, still really big, but would have been much bigger still if we could have waited longer. Okay. So, now we still can't hit you. We still can't hit you with Thunder, otherwise we destroy the Infiltrator. But we can at least set this row on fire. And, I mean, hopefully they'll play more stuff here, so we can get more value out of that.
I smell a leak.
You'll come back. Oh, is it a random row? Opposite side? I thought you were going to come out here, and we don't really like splitting rows at this point in time. Damage all units in enemy row by 2 if the row is under Biting Frost. Damage them by more. So, what we can do is... Oh, and this is not as good after the Isabel boost. Well, still decent. Alchemist to power you up by a lot, because Knickers is up at 33. So we could wait a little bit before doing that. But, oh, technically we should have played Bomber here, which would have been kind of nice. But, oh, yeah. Well, we could Blood and see what we get. Let's do this. And put Alchemist right there, and then Alchemist again with Gabor on a subsequent turn. Or Alchemist here, make this guy big, and then put the Alchemist right here and use this one to get a bigger Alchemist, which would be even better. I think that is definitely worth doing. And then, I mean, Infiltrator's not terrible. On a 14, that's decent. Bomber, probably not enough time for that to be all that effective in Slinger. We could move you into the fire, but you have to move one of you out, and you have armor, so it's not that big a deal. I think it is probably Infiltrator. Okay, so first Alchemist goes here.
Greetings.
Power
What
you up.
is it?
And so now, that's a good power increase, but now if we go Alchemist here on our next turn, like that, that's going to be much bigger. And then you go, just make sure to put you in the right spot, boost self by the power of the unit to the right, which means you go here. So once again, means we're going to have to be careful with Thunder. Is probably going to have to be our last play. Griffin. Why did you have to move him? I mean, yes, we still have a decent option here, but we set that up so well. We have leader ability back, which we also might have had on our previous turn, and I might have totally missed it, but I don't think we're going to get another round of it before the end of the match anyway. And we'll probably go for the Snow Wolves, because those are both tied for 11, and the Infiltrator is not getting his power based on those anyway. So we do this. And oh, we still have a 1 Arbalest. Didn't even see it. There was a risk that was going to hit the Infiltrator. Fortunately, it did not. Now let's do the Alchemist play, and let's do this to power you up.
You've not seen me.
So now you should come back. And then it's just all-out damage from here on out. So we can Thunder, and it's not bad here, although we could get rid of a Snow Wolf, which is kind of nice. Not sure if they're going to have a Snow Wolf for one of their last cards, but it's possible. So maybe, although the damage is the direct damage is a little bit less, it denies them some damage. So I mean, we have a big margin, so it shouldn't matter too much. But yeah, let's get rid of the Snow Wolf. I mean, this is also going to get. So here, this gets rid of the Snow Wolf. Actually, this is better damage because this one has armor, so it's going to tank some of the damage there. That has less base power. This is more. It's actually the same number either way. But Lids, that one could have gotten hit by fire, and this one couldn't have. Yes, fair enough. But then they moved all these guys into the fire row anyway. So now we use Northern Winds, and it should give us about a 100-point lead. Obviously, they still have one more card to play here, so we will see what they can do from that, but I doubt it'll be sufficient. It'd have to be pretty amazing. But no, we'll take the win.
And let's be gone from this place.
Alright, take those measurements.
The Lyrians managed to repel the monsters and reach both peaks. Upon each, Meve ordered her men to take the measurements. While waiting, she admired the breathtaking view of the Mahakaman Massif. The dwarven contraption left no room for doubt. The peak within the Dahlberg clan territory was 2 feet higher than that within Hoog territory. Gabor was clearly displeased with the results.
Damn it all! I'd hoped you'd prove Brewer's clan was in the right. He'd have been content to see the Dahlbergs knocked down a peg or two, and possibly he'd have been more inclined to help you,
said the dwarf in frustration. Then, after a pause, he added,
Although, only
We
you
could
saw
lie.
what the device showed, Queen. Perhaps you could, recalibrate the results a wee bit?
Yeah, I mean, from what we saw, walking up to this spot, one of the peaks looked way higher than the other. But assuming they were the ones that we were walking up to, unless we're, like, telescoping our way, looking across to a more distant peak that we are not currently standing on. But, yeah, I mean, so once again, this is an opportunity to make Brewer happy. And once again, we ask ourselves, how many times do we need to do those types of things? Because it feels like we've done way more good things than bad things at this point. So maybe we can just tell the truth here. On the other hand, Not even sure what the stakes are if we are to falsify the records. Yes, it makes Bruver happy, but what is the upside of this? Like, do we get more in the way of resources or something else? Like a card fragment from choosing this one? We just don't really know what the argument for this is, and that makes me feel like maybe there is something good here, because they haven't really told us what the reward for it would be. But, I don't know. Let's try it. I feel like we've done way more good things than bad things at this point, and as long as we don't pick a fight with the Nilfgaardians at the neighboring camp, Bruver's probably still going to be happy with us, right?
To lie would be simple, true.
said Meve.
Yet to forget the matter would be so much harder. No, Gabor, I shall tell the truth.
The Queen's tone made it clear that
If it's just a matter of honor, then
Gabor let the matter lie, and Meve's force began its descent down the mountainside.
Yeah, so if it's just a matter of honor, being truthful and saying the right thing, then, it's not a huge deal. But, if it means that by telling the truth, we're going to get a little more in the way of resources after we just lost basically all of our resources very recently, then that was kind of the determining factor, really. I mean, obviously it was an unknown quantity, but I estimated that might be something we would get. I mean, that's pretty solid right there. Anything hiding right up at the top? We know there is supposed to be a treasure chest right around here of the golden variety with our map. So here, let's uncover this and see what this is all about. Oh, it's the Premium of Isbel. Very cool. For multiplayer, Gwent. Okay, definitely. We'll claim it. Meve goes, yes. Little fist pump. Alright, well, I think this is probably, well, I would say a good place for us to wrap up, but perhaps we at least double back and do check in with those dwarves and see if we can come to a conclusion.
The dwarves of both clans had been waiting with bated breath for the expedition's return and report. As soon as Meve announced the results, the Dahlbergs rolled barrels of beer out into the square and began to celebrate. Naturally, the Hoogs were disappointed, yet they accepted Meve's results as final. At last, they had come to trust her.
Okay. The trust of the locals, but I mean, this one feels like it was not so much a bad thing that we chose not to, we chose not to lie. We chose to tell the truth, as much as it was just a neutral thing. It would have been a good thing if we lied and made Bruver's clan sound better, but it's not like we actively sabotaged something. I mean, granted, like, who knows? Bruver is, does seem to be rather picky when it comes to this stuff, so I wouldn't necessarily rule out that he would still hold this against us, but who knows? Alright, did we get anything in the way of other rewards? Okay. Alright, I mean, maybe it is just a matter of honor, and I don't know, maybe if we had, speaking of honor, still had Ache on our team, if we were to lie, then sure, it'd make Bruver happy, but Ache would be displeased, and that might make him leave. I don't know, obviously we don't have him anymore, so it's not a factor, but it just feels like the trade-off was, I mean, there's not really much to be gained from telling the truth here, if we're metagaming it to that extent, but I'm just curious to see, what the inner workings behind the scenes are with all that stuff. But either way, I mean, we finished the encounter, and we have now actually gotten up to a decent amount of resources, which was, of course, a big concern after losing all of them after the avalanche. So, with that being said, this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time.